Sea serpents are a race of intelligent marine reptiles that inhabit the world's oceans, with the exception of the Arctic waters. This race has significant gender differences between males and females, and we will start by discussing the females. Female sea serpents range in length from 35 to 45 meters and can weigh up to 20 tons. They have a long body with wave-like ridges running along their sides from their neck. The tip of their tail ends in a wide, paddle-like appendage that helps them swim. The female sea serpent's head is elongated and broad. It has 4 elongated oval protrusions on the back of its head, which are actually gills and help it filter oxygen from the water. The top of its head is adorned with a large turquoise-colored growth that resembles a crown. The front of its head is adorned with a pair of tiny gray-blue eyes. Like all reptiles, sea serpents have scaly skin, which is dark red in female sea serpents. The tongue of sea serpents is forked, and there are up to 30 teeth in their mouths. Male sea serpents differ significantly from female sea snakes. They are much smaller in size, with a maximum length of 10 to 12 meters and a weight of 8 tons. The ridges on their heads are more pointed, and they do not have a crown-shaped growth on their heads. Their body color is black, except for the wave-like ridges on their sides, which have a dark purple sheen, and the white patches around their eyes. Male eyes are completely black and have no whites. Sea serpents are predatory creatures that specialize in hunting large prey, such as giant squid, whales, and colossal crabs. To hunt, sea serpents have the necessary tools, including infrared vision that helps them detect their prey's heat signature, and an excellent sense of smell. Like their terrestrial counterparts, sea serpents use their forked tongues for scent detection. Additionally, sea serpents possess a mild venom that has a paralyzing effect. Male venom is stronger than female venom, but females have a much stronger bite than males, and they don't need as much venom. Sea serpents are ambush hunters that wait for their prey at depth, choosing the right moment to launch a sudden attack. Like their land-dwelling relatives, sea serpents do not have ears, which means they do not have a developed verbal language. Therefore, they use various methods of communication to communicate with each other. One of these methods is pheromones. Sea serpents use chemical substances to communicate with other members of their species. Pheromones can be used to attract mates, mark territory, or transmit other important messages. Another method is gestures and movements. Sea serpents use a complex system of gestures and movements to communicate with each other. For example, they can perform threatening movements to scare off their enemies, or they can use other gestures to show love and affection. However, their primary method of communication is through electrocommunication. Sea serpents have special organs that can produce and detect electrical signals, which they use to send messages to each other. This communication system exists in some land snakes, but in sea serpents it has a more advanced form than in their land-dwelling relatives. Electrocommunication is used to transmit both short phrases, such as, "Hello, who are you? I've found prey here, stranger," and so on, and long and complex messages. Males can transmit and receive electro signals up to 5 kilometers away, while females can do so up to 20 kilometers due to their size. Sea serpents live in warm seas and oceans. Their place of residence is deep sea canyons, in which the sea serpent creates its lairs, called nests. These are usually deep, spacious burrows, resembling caves, which the female sea serpent creates on her own. Both the female and the males live in these nests. Sea serpents are social creatures that live in groups called clans. Usually a clan consists of 8 or 12 males, 1 female and several dozen cubs. There is a strict hierarchy in the clan. We will start from the top and go down. The head of the clan is the only female serpent who bears the title of the Great Mother. She enjoys unquestioning authority among the other members of the group, as she is the main protector of the clan. Usually, the territory controlled by one clan covers a radius of 25 kilometers, and the Great Mother carefully protects it from enemies, including other females. This is of great importance, since how well a clan can control its territory depends on how much food the males can get. The males of the clan are the main hunters. The female does not hunt, as this is the work of males, although in rare cases the Great Mother may participate in the hunt for particularly large prey. At the same time, despite the fact that males act together, competition and their own hierarchy prevail among them. All of them compete for the attention of the female, since only the strongest and most agile male has the right to mate with her and command other males. The third in the clan hierarchy are the cubs. The sea serpent is a viviparous creature. The female's pregnancy lasts for 10 months, after which fully formed cubs are born, but as a rule, they themselves are not capable of anything and learn everything from adults. They spend most of their childhood in the nest under the supervision of their mother, and they become fully grown only after 15 years. At the same time, if the boys can stay, the girls leave the clan to found their own clan. By conquering him in a battle with another great mother or starting a family from scratch by meeting wandering males. The lifespan of sea serpents lasts 80 years. After the death of one of the clan members, others eat his corpse. However, this is not a simple meal, but rather a spiritual ceremony. Since after the ritual eating, none of the clan members leaves the nest, they don't eat for the next 3 days, lying on the bottom and curled up. In general, the inhabitants of the underwater world do not have a clear opinion about whether a sea serpent is an intelligent being or not. Some people think the sea serpent is just a very intelligent animal, and some believe that it is an intelligent race. Proponents of the first theory argue that in order to be an intelligent race, a being must have self-awareness, be able to create tools, be able to communicate not only with each other, but also be able to come into contact with other races and understand their intelligence. The sea serpent cannot create tools, as it lacks the limbs to do so. Due to their lack of hearing, they cannot understand other creatures, which is why they cannot come into contact with them, as a result of which they are not an intelligent race. However, proponents of the reasonableness of the sea serpent argue that despite the fact that they cannot understand the language of other races due to the peculiarities of their structure, sea serpents can still come into contact with them if they use a non-verbal language of communication. For example, the speech of the serpent does not understand, he simply does not hear it, but a sea serpent can understand sign language and will even be able to respond with his own gesture, if of course the interlocutor understands what he was told. At the same time, the sea serpent can understand the reasonableness of the interlocutor. In the fact that they have never attacked members of other races in order to eat them speaks in favor of the intelligence and awareness of these creatures. Yes, the sea serpent is a very territorial creature capable of attacking both its own kind and representatives of other races to protect the territory, but there has not been a single case in which a sea serpent ate an opponent after killing. This can be explained by the fact that the sea serpent understands that in front of him is not a simple animal, but another intelligent being like him. The sea serpents is a race whose past goes back so far that many consider them to be one of the oldest races in the ocean. The oldest remains of a sea serpent date back approximately 10 million years before the Common Era. While it is impossible to determine their exact origin, most underwater scientists believe that they originated in the Indian Ocean. Little is known about their early history. This lack of knowledge is due to the fact that even the sea serpents themselves have little knowledge of their past. They have no religion, no legends, and no fossils of their civilization. It is likely that this species has not changed or altered its way of life over the millions of years of its existence. However, it is certain that they have spread to all the warm seas and oceans of the planet, becoming the first underwater race to gain worldwide distribution. However, many other local races did not initially realize that sea serpents were intelligent, and for a long time they were considered to be just animals. The first marine race to recognize that the sea serpenti was not just an animal were the Leviathans, who were able to force the sea serpents that lived in the Mediterranean Sea to pay tribute to them in the year 5000 BC. However, the sea snakes did not like this and, by uniting, they started a rebellion against the Leviathans, which, due to the disunity of the sea snakes, was quickly and brutally suppressed. After that, all the Mediterranean sea serpent clans became vassals of the Leviathans. But a few thousand years later, the Krakens arrived in the Mediterranean Sea, and they were also familiar with the sea serpents that lived in the Atlantic, but they did not consider them to be intelligent beings. During the war, the Leviathans' vassals rebelled against their rulers, including the sea serpents, which led to the Leviathans' surrender. After winning the war against the Leviathans, the Krakens were surprised to learn that the sea serpents were actually a full-fledged race that had been under the Leviathans' vassalage for a long time. According to the peace treaty between the Krakens and the Leviathans, the latter transferred control of their former vassals, including the sea serpents, to the Krakens, which caused discontent among the Mediterranean races. This led to a rebellion by the Hydra, Charybdis, Capricorn, and sea serpents against the Kraken, which was unsuccessful due to the assistance of the mermaids in suppressing it. As a result, Most of the Sea Serpents clans accepted the Kraken's authority, but a few continued to rebel for several more years before eventually surrendering. However, a unique event occurred 10 years after the Kraken's victory, when they declared the Sea Serpents to be non-sentient beings. This decision was made due to the Kraken's inability to establish contact with the Sea Serpents, and after studying their species in detail, they concluded that the Sea Serpents did not meet the criteria for being classified as a sentient race. As a result, the Kraken revoked this classification. At the same time, they ignored the protests of other Mediterranean races, who had no doubt about their intelligence, but the Krakens remained steadfast in their decision. The Sea Serpents themselves accepted this without any issues. They didn't care whether they were considered intelligent or not. Their main concern was to be left alone and not encroached upon. Unfortunately, this happened quite often, as the Krakens, who did not recognize the Sea Serpents as their equals, often violated their boundaries and interfered with their daily lives by building their own cities in their habitats, which caused discontent among the Sea Serpents, leading to local or widespread rebellions that were always suppressed. But this is all about the Mediterranean Sea, and what about the other seas? In these seas, Sea Serpents thrived as one of the most dangerous predators, and they were the dominant force everywhere except in the Arctic, the Kraken's domain in Pacific Ocean, where they had competitors in the form of the Umibozu. Sea Serpents flourished without any significant evolution or change. But this only lasted until the Krakens came to their territory, which by the middle of the 5th century AD had spread far beyond their native territories. Although the Sea Serpents from other oceans were initially quite friendly and curious about the newcomers, the Krakens themselves, considering them to be nothing more than intelligent animals, were not particularly eager to befriend them, which naturally led to conflicts. Very often, during small wars with the Krakens, different Sea Serpent clans formed alliances with each other and created complex plans and strategies that were so well thought out that they even surprised their opponents. However, due to the local nature of these conflicts, they always ended in victory for the Krakens, forcing the Sea Serpents to leave their old nests and search for new homes. This continued until the 18th century. By this time, the Krakens had taken over all the seas and oceans, and the Sea Serpents could no longer tolerate the Kraken's disregard for their borders, leading to a full-scale conflict between the Krakens and the Sea Serpents, known as the Serpent Wars. The Serpent Wars were a full-scale rebellion of the Sea Serpents, which involved almost all of their clans in all the seas and oceans they inhabited. The most intense rebellion took place in the Atlantic Ocean, the Indian Ocean, and the Caribbean Sea. During this period, the Sea Serpents rarely attacked each other, as they united against the Krakens. Their unity was so strong that there were instances where multiple different clans shared the same nest for greater security, which was unprecedented for such territorial creatures. Usually, males acted as a light combat force, attacking Kraken plantations outside the cities, as well as their garrisons, and they were also scouts, studying the situation outside. The matriarchs acted as the brains behind the strategy, communicating with the matriarchs of other clans using electro signals and coordinating their actions. The females were also used as a heavy combat force in case of a large attack or encounter with the giant Krakens. Due to the fact that this rebellion did not have a single leader, it was very difficult for the Krakens to suppress it. The Serpent Wars continued from the 18th century to the early 20th century and became the longest war in the history of the Krakens. Because the Sea Serpents used complex plans to fight their enemies and their actions were deliberate, for the first time in almost 2,000 years, some Krakens began to believe that the Sea Serpent was indeed a sentient being. However, the first to recognize them as a separate race was the Queen of the Caribbean, Pearl, who quickly established relations with them by forbidding her troops from attacking them and returning all their lands to them. This was the reason why, during the Kraken Civil War, the Sea Serpents supported Queen Pearl, allowing her troops to pass through their territories without hindrance and sharing intelligence with her. This was the final confirmation of their intelligence, and after defeating Pearl, the Sea Serpents, along with all other underwater races, were invited to ratify the Caribbean Convention of Sea Races and Peoples, thereby officially recognizing them as an equal race. However, the Krakens refused to return the Sea Serpents' lands, which deeply offended them. The Sea Serpents' desire to regain their territories was one of the main reasons why they supported the mermaids in the Trident War. It's worth noting that not all Sea Serpents opposed the Krakens. About 35% of the clans remained neutral. However, most of the Sea Serpents sided with Nerissa, and when she lost, they lost with her, agreeing to a peace treaty with the Kraken Kingdom. So let's summarize. Is the sea serpent a sentient being? In my opinion, yes, but their largely primitive, perhaps even slightly animalistic lifestyle has led many other races in the underwater world to misunderstand their intelligence, resulting in conflicts. The Leviathans were the first race to recognize the sea serpents as a distinct race, but they did not acknowledge them as their equals, leading to a hostile relationship between the two species. The Hydras became the second race, after the Leviathans, to recognize their intelligence. The fact that they were under their common dependence led to a relationship that was not exactly friendly, but they were able to trust each other. During the Serpent Wars, many Hydras willingly fought alongside the sea serpents, further strengthening their relationship. But after the Kraken Civil War and the Trident War, in which these two species fought on opposite sides, relations between them have become cooler. The sea serpents have a clear negative attitude towards the Charybdis, as the Charybdis refuse to recognize them as a sentient race, leading to occasional conflicts over territory. Relations with the Capricorn species are completely neutral. The only thing that connects them is the fact that the Capricorns recognizes them as a sentient race and does not claim their territory. The same goes for the Iku Tursos. Since they live in the Arctic waters, the sea serpents have never crossed paths with them, although they are aware of each other's existence. Relations with the Umibozu are hostile due to their long-standing competition for dominance in the Pacific Ocean. As a result, these giant sea amphibians are one of the oldest enemies of the sea serpent. However, despite their animosity towards the Umibozu, who recognized them as intelligent beings and respected their bravery in battle, the sea serpent's true hatred lies with the Krakens. The reason for their hatred is clear. For over 2,000 years, the Krakens considered them to be common animals and drove them away from their homeland. Even after acknowledging their mistake, the Krakens refused to return it to them, which led to the sea serpents becoming one of Nerissa's most ardent allies. During the Trident War, they even managed to kill several giant Krakens. By the way, since we're talking about mermaids, that the relationship between them is very friendly, as the mermaids recognized them as a sentient species back when the Leviathans did the same, and they have never violated the boundaries, even defending the interests against the Krakens. The sea serpents' relationship with humans is quite controversial, as the serpents have long been curious about humans, occasionally venturing to the surface to observe them. However, after the incident with the whaling ship Monogonhella in 1852, during which the great mother of the local clan was killed by the sailors, the attitude towards humans changed to a more suspicious and distrustful one. Sea serpents are amazing creatures that have come a long way without changing in their entire existence, preserving their customs and way of life unchanged to this day. This makes them a true relic of the past era. This is both a plus and a minus, as their desire for isolation and unwillingness to adapt to the new era have led to the stereotype of the sea serpents as a ruthless and unreasonable killer, which is widely accepted both in the underwater world and on the surface. But the sea serpents themselves do not care what others think about them. What is important for them is the availability of food, a safe home, close relatives who will support each other in difficult times, and also that no one touches them and does not interfere with them to live as they want. Sea serpents do not care about luxury, big politics and the struggle for power over the ocean. They do not look at the past or the future, do not waste time and effort on useless philosophical reflections. Sea serpents live in the present, and all that matters to them is what they have right now, so they just go on living their lives, enjoying the little things. And that's probably something we can learn from them, even if we don't understand their language.